Okay, let's look at how to figure out if a chemical reaction is exothermic or endothermic. And so, first of all, we're going to start with delta H's. Alright, so if you look at the first one, so we have delta H equals a negative 23 kilojoules. Well, it's as easy as this. If your delta H is negative, that means that it is exothermic. Okay? If your delta H is positive, or you see there's no sign written in front of there, that means it's positive, then it will be endothermic. Okay, so once again, a delta H that's negative, exothermic. A delta H that's positive, endothermic. It's as simple as that. Okay, now let's skip down to question number 3. Okay, a chemical dissolves in water and the temperature of the water increases. Okay, dissolving really technically isn't classified as a chemical reaction. But let's think about this. So a chemical dissolves in water and the temperature of the water increases. So if you think about, like, here we have a beaker, here we have the chemical. Okay, now your temperature of your water, okay, so the water is increasing, the temperature is going up. Well, where is the heat coming from? The heat must be going out of the chemical and into the water. So if your reaction vessel or your water increases in temperature, that means that the heat must be exiting the chemical that you put in there, and so that would be classified as exothermic. Okay, now the opposite of that, so let's say you have some water and you put a chemical in there, and after you put the chemical in, the water temperature goes down. Okay, that must mean that the heat is going from the water into or entering the chemical. Okay, so the heat must be going from the water and entering the chemical if the temperature is going down. So if the heat is entering the chemical, in terms of the chemical, then that's going to be endothermic. Alright, let's look at number 5 here. Okay, number 5 is when you have a chemical reaction and the heat is included as part of the chemical reaction, you have to be able to classify that as endothermic or exothermic. Alright, and so if the heat is written on the left-hand side of the equation, so see, here's the arrow, here's the left-hand side, here's the heat number right here, because it's kilojoules. If that's on the left-hand side, that means that the heat is a reactant. If the heat is on the left-hand side and the heat is a reactant, that means that heat must be added to the reaction for that to occur, so that means that is endothermic. The opposite of that is when the heat is on the right-hand side of the arrow and the heat is a product. Heat is being produced. Okay, so you have a chemical reaction and heat is being produced. If heat is a product, it's on the right-hand side, that means the reaction is exothermic. So, when you have a chemical reaction, it's just easy. Look at the left-hand side. If the heat's on the left-hand side, you classify it as endothermic. If the heat is on the right-hand side of the arrow, it's exothermic. Okay, now you can have a chemical reaction inside of a reaction vessel. Okay, so let's say you have a reaction vessel and you mix chemical A with chemical B. Alright, and the temperature of the vessel goes up. Well, that must mean that heat is coming out, okay, of the reaction and making the vessel heat up. Therefore, that would be exothermic. That would be like mixing aluminum with the silver chloride, like in problem number 6 here. Okay, the heat would come out of after the chemicals would be mixed, heat would be, you would have a net amount of heat being released, and so that would be exothermic. Now, if you have the opposite of that happen, alright, and you put two chemicals in and the reaction vessel decreases, the temperature goes down, that must mean that heat is coming from the vessel or the surroundings into the chemicals. Alright? And so the heat is going into the chemicals. So in terms of the chemicals, that reaction would be endothermic. Okay, just a general rule of thumb, if the reaction vessel warms up, that's exothermic. So if the temperature of the vessel goes up, okay, that's exothermic. If the temperature of the vessel goes down, that is going to be endothermic.